of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would take a motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Bangy, seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, the consent agenda, I would take a motion to approve that unless if somebody has questions.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Rick, seconded by Bruce. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, the next city engineer updates. Is he on the horn?
Hi. I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Chris.
We just can't see you yet.
Oh, okay. Pretty quick today here. I do have a project update for everything that's kind of going on right now on the current projects. Just a quick update on the 22 project, which is Columbus Avenue. Paving will be tomorrow. And they've already gone through. It sounds like they've done their weed spraying. They're going to come back and try to get turf to grow on that project. So that's kind of our biggest priority there. On the current 23 project, everything's paved, just topsoil seeding and some work over in the trail on the east end. They'll be done pretty soon. And on the 2024 project, which we're working on the feasibility report, we do have a neighborhood meeting scheduled for the 13th of September, I believe it was. So that'll be our first neighborhood meeting. What I do want to get into is our next item on the agenda, which is the bid opening on 10th Avenue Southeast, 1st Street Southeast RRFP. I did include a memo summary of that bid opening, but essentially everything kind of bid in high. So our final estimate on the project was just over about $76,000 in the low bid at $115,000. This is a grant eligible project at 90%. So we have requested additional grant up to the 90% of the low bid, but we don't have any information back. So at this point, I am not recommending award until that additional grant money is provided or moving towards a rebid or inclusion of some of the work on the upcoming 2024 project. So definitely unfortunate getting the higher bids on that project. And I think it's just looking at the three bids that were received, the two other bids being even higher than that, 135,000 almost and 145,000. Three contractors I've never worked with also. So kind of a little specialty work here on with the, I think part of it is the disenfranchised business enterprise requirement, the DBE it's called.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're seeing some different contractors. But costs were kind of all across the board between the three or amongst the three. So I can't tell you exactly where the difference is. Mobilization's $20,000 on its own, more than we estimated, and just a little bit here and there, just kind of all added up. So just a quick summary, I guess, of the bid opening and where that project's at now.
Just a quick one, Chris. I got a call on it this morning. They seen you guys out there, and have we informed them or given any of the residents letters telling them what we're thinking and everything? I know that we talked about it already, but did we notify the residents?
I think we sent them out in the reconstruction area. I'm not sure if we got them on 10th Avenue just because we're mostly butting up to people's backyards. But I can certainly check into that. I can't recall if we included them in that notice. So usually we send out a notice saying that you'll see surveyors out there.
That's what flagged them in.
Yeah. And so normally we send that out. I don't recall if we had 10th Avenue on there. Just I think there's only maybe a couple properties in the commercial that directly abut the project. Otherwise, we're just be doing work at the intersection. So nothing that's going to be very obtrusive. It shouldn't really interfere too much with people. We're going to be within 50 feet of each of the intersections.
Is there a way that before the project starts, right when you're getting ready to break ground, is there a way that we can just the vicinity around that area to notify them?
Well, yeah. So the upcoming neighborhood meeting will have notices sent out to everybody, whether they're in the reconstruction area or on 10th Avenue. It's just, the notice that went out with the survey, I think, was mostly just to the reconstruction area.
Hmm.
But we was sending out the notice for the neighborhood meeting this week. And so everybody that's on the project, usually that's fairly close to the project even, we'll get those notices here this week of the upcoming project.
Don't forget the council on those mailings.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, usually we do.
I'll call them back
Of
tomorrow.
course. Yep. Yep.
So I see in your notes here, it says if MnDOT doesn't provide the additional funding, rebid the project with the 20, I understand that. What's the RRFB installation? Is that those lights? Is that what that means?
It is. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the lights like you have downtown, just next to City Hall on Main Street.
Yeah,
The only difference on these ones is they're push button
yep.
operation instead of having the sensors.
So, yeah, you were talking about maybe we can get them in now. Maybe,
Well,
or is that what not you were talking about?
not quite. So as the project is bid, it includes the crosswalk flasher system, the RRFBs, and then a handful of other improvements. We have to move manhole, catch basin. We have to do a bunch of concrete work and sidewalk. And of that $115,000 bid, 29,000 of it's actually for the crosswalk flasher system. So
Okay.
it's 30% of the bid is just for that improvement. There's a lot of other stuff going on. There may be an opportunity to, if we aren't able to award the project as it is, to rebid it in its current state. I'm not sure if the cost would necessarily go down. The second option would be to rebid the the flasher system without all the concrete improvements and things like that, because the 10th Avenue project would be planned for next year as part of the larger project.
Okay.
So instead of spending I think what's our unit price on curb for this project is $115 per foot is the bid, which is about 5 times higher than what you'll see on a street utility project normally. So
Wow.
the cost would be lower if bid separately.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris, you had mentioned in the 2023 street project, the Greenway Trail on the east side where it butts 10th, there's a big pile of dirt with weeds on it in front of the home.
That's gone.
Is that, oh, it is, it's finally gone. I just saw it this morning when I was walking, so, okay.
And it's gone since.
Okay.
Oh, good,
It was gone
good.
this afternoon.
Yay, all right, thanks. Thank you.
Of course. That's, I guess, all I have for you today, unless there's any more questions.
I don't have any. Does anybody else?
Nope, thanks, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item up is the public is invited to be heard on matters not on the agenda. The speakers are limited to 5 minutes, so if somebody wants to come up and talk to something that isn't on the agenda, you're more than welcome to. You just need to state your name and address, that's all.
My name's Gary Whitus. I live at 1406 9th Street Southeast.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk to the council a little bit. I watched the meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, and I'm really concerned about what's going on with the cannabis laws in Minnesota. I think our legislature rammed some legislation through, and now the cities and the counties are left trying to put the pieces together. And I think the council needs to move carefully on this project, and I think you need to really consider what's going to take place here. I don't see any reason why people should be allowed to smoke marijuana on our streets, on our sidewalks, in our city parks. I think that'd be absolutely ridiculous. There's too many children that spend all their time in those parks. And I certainly hope you take that into consideration. I know law enforcement in both county and local, they're concerned about it. I've talked to our chief about it, and there's just too many questions and not enough answers. And I think you have a chance to calm things down in New Prague and say, okay, there's rules and regulations. And people can say, well, you know, what about alcohol? Well, alcohol's different. If you're walking down the street, you don't have to get a whiff of somebody else's alcohol. When they're smoking marijuana, that's, and again, I grew up in the 70s, so I know about marijuana. Never touched it myself, but But I think the thing to consider is that, you know, a lot of my grandkids come here. You know, they come here for Dozinki, they come here and spend a weekend with us, and I take them to the parks every time. And I don't want my kids exposed to that, or my grandkids exposed to that in the city parks. So I just wanted to give you my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
And sir, if you want to stay, we actually are having a discussion about a proposed ordinance.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're gonna move on. If nobody else wants to be heard on the public, otherwise we'll be moving on to the public hearing, which is about the corner bar issuance of an on-sale intoxicating liquor license. Does you or the chief want to speak to that first?
Yes, so, with, new ownership, potentially at the corner bar, they need to apply for a new liquor license, and so that's why we're here. The applicant is in the audience here if you have any questions, but, I mean, otherwise, it's pretty straightforward with kind of change of ownership.
Everything came back clear, chief, I see?
Yeah, everything came back clear. My only question is did you register with the Secretary of State yet? You did? Okay. It hadn't shown up yet when I did the check, so just to make sure that was checked and we're good. Okay.
Okay, so with that, I will be opening the public hearing, or closing the regular council meeting and opening up the public hearing. So, if anybody would like to speak to this, they come up to the podium and are able to, speak. You need to state your name and address and, the reason, that you're speaking towards it. I guess I forgot to ask the council if they had any questions first. I apologize.
No questions for me.
Okay, does the council have any questions?
No.
Does anybody want to speak on behalf of issuing the corner bar a liquor license? All right, I would take a motion to close the public hearing.
Make the motion.
Okay, I heard Maggie first. Do you want to, and Rick seconded it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. So then,
So then you'd just be voting on the issue.
the approval, yep. Okay. So then I would take a motion to approve the liquor license. Come, this is.
So
So
moved. Go
Okay.
ahead, Rick.
There's been a motion by Rick, seconded by Maggie?
Yes.
Okay, to approve the liquor license for the corner bar. Any other questions?
I just want,
Yep.
You mentioned, are you owning the building or renting it?
A separate LLC that I also own will own the building. So one LLC will rent it from the other, but I own both.
Okay, and that is a corporation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Good luck. All right, the next item up on the agenda is the ordinance for amending title, what is that, 11? Title 11 of the city code by creating a new chapter 122 as public use of tobacco, hemp, and cannabis products.
Yes, I can give a brief overview here. So actually, there is a typo in the agenda I just saw that would be updating, creating chapter 132, not 122.
Oh,
Of the city code, but, anyway, so yes, at the last council meeting, staff kind of brought forward some information we learned about, cannabis, where, we were under the interpretation, as much of the state was, that, it was pretty defined as to where you couldn't consume. It has started to kind of be revealed that most attorneys are now recommending that it is not clearly as defined as we thought it was, and that cities and counties can and should, if they wish to, regulate the consumption of cannabis in public places. And so that's where at the last meeting, we kind of brought forward this information, just seeing if you guys were even interested in having the discussion and having staff spend time on this. It did sound like you were, so we threw together an ordinance. This ordinance, we tried to basically include everything at this point, because for discussion's sake, it is much easier to remove stuff if that's the case than it is to try to add stuff in and say, okay, now what are we adding? It's much easier to say, just strike this line. So the ordinance in front of you does go off of a much broader. It basically bans the consumption. Ken or the chief can correct me if I start overstepping my bounds. This basically bans the consumption of cannabis anywhere that would be considered public, as we try to define it. Public rights of way, so your streets and sidewalk, public parks. I believe we did leave it in there that anywhere on private property is not considered public. So if a establishment wants to allow, they may not have a traditional patio, but if they've got some land on the side of their building or behind it, they want to allow people to be able to step out and consume, the business can certainly choose to do so. The other thing that we thought we'd throw in here, because there was discussion last time, was just talking about smoking tobacco on be them public streets or sidewalks, because there was the discussion of the smoke with cannabis and the smoke with tobacco. So any or all of this may or may not make it through, but we have put it in here for discussion purposes as to how we would like to proceed. Just as some background, I know 2 years ago when I first started, the council did discuss the general use of any tobacco in public parks only, not necessarily streets and sidewalks, but just public parks. And at that time, the council said they weren't interested in going with general tobacco use because of smokeless forms of tobacco. If I recall, they didn't necessarily want to regulate that out, as it didn't have as large of an impact. Kind of run along those lines, we just included the smoking of tobacco in this one for discussion's sake, but obviously we can take this anywhere. So we'll try to field questions as we can at this point. And do you guys have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, you got,
Just wait, Rick. I want this to be a talk, not, okay.
Oh, yes, as Matt said, golf course. That was one of the areas that we try to define both as a public place and a private place a little bit.
Yep.
In that certain areas of the golf course, we have within 200 feet of any building, and then 50 foot of a golf course employee would be considered public and you would not be able to consume. But if you're away from those, then it would be, for all intents and purposes, excluded from this, in that generally when you're on the golf course, you are already spaced out from people. And so the secondhand portion isn't quite as a concern as we were looking at in terms of that. In terms of the intoxication part, we were thinking that we do allow the consumption of alcohol in the golf course. And so how is this potentially any different if you're worried about the intoxication effects while on the golf course? So again, those are things up for discussion. We were just trying to head off as we were making arguments internally of how this could lay out.
Okay. Any questions of the council?
yes, you got tobacco in here on the same line. Is that for chapter 122, you're gonna change all of our tobacco stuff into the 122 then, or what?
So this is something that we worked with the attorney on. I believe that, like I said, that should state chapter 132.
Yep.
Does.
But
So tobacco, Rick, the exception for public use does not include sidewalks and public right-of-way. And it also does not include the golf course, so that is what's different about the tobacco use, or tobacco smoking versus cannabis. Cannabis does include not using it in public street, sidewalk, right-of-way. The smoking tobacco is allowed as it's written currently in here.
And that would include, you're saying the golf course, is that gonna include the ball field too?
This is just golf course for the purposes of what we're putting forward for discussion, only included the golf course as an exception. Right now, ball field, including baseball field, softball field, you would not be able to use cannabis or smoking tobacco, I should know.
And I've already been informed that there would be, and all the apartments would not allow it. So we're gonna tell everybody that lives in an apartment, you can't
no,
do everything that everybody else can do. If you can go out on the street or the sidewalk or the alley,
that's private property.
So for the purposes of cannabis and how that's written, it does leave that choice up to the landlord for rental property if they want to allow smoking tobacco or the use of cannabis, so.
9 out of 10 of them
It
don't.
depends on, the landlord would have the control in those situations, if they want to limit it. This ordinance would not limit that, specifically to apartments, but they then have the choice for their tenants to make that decision if they want to allow it or not.
And what are we looking at with the state? I mean, does the state, are they going to turn around now? If we turn around and do make up, you know, because there's a compromise out there without offending everybody and trying to tell everybody what to do. But if the state comes along and changes it again, then we've got to change everything back again too. So
Yep.
it's, and they're going to have to, because you can't let every city in greater Minnesota come up with their own rules and regulations. You wouldn't be able to drive from A to B without getting a ticket.
Yep.
And
And
that's a challenge.
That's where we're at.
And
a
that's
challenge that-
exactly what they've put the burden on the local governments. That's exactly what the state did.
So why can't these greater Minnesota cities sit back and go, you know what, we're not even gonna touch this because we're just gonna end up paying a lot of legal fees?
You know?
Because there is a concern about smoking of cannabis in public areas.
How many people, there's been on
Rick,
for.
please let me
Rick,
finish.
Come on, I
Please.
wanna have a conversation.
So there is a concern about the smoking of cannabis in public spaces because of the secondhand nature of it. So there could be an intoxicating outcome for some individuals and especially children. And so, you know, the discussion here is where and where it cannot be used. And right now, we're saying in public spaces, which includes sidewalks, and this is just cannabis, Rick. This is not cigarettes, smoking tobacco. So, you know, we have to delineate in some way of where and where it cannot be consumed. And I think this ordinance is a very good start for that because it does delineate tobacco use versus cannabis. I do want to call out that I am not in favor of having cannabis smoked or consumed on the golf course. It is a public park. I know that people are more spaced out, but there's still, could be a situation where, you know, people are close enough or there's children out on the course and I just would not feel comfortable allowing that. I think it would be a lot easier to control and have our police also patrol that. It would just be easier that it's in all of our city parks and all of our city sidewalks, and we don't have to worry about, is this 200 feet away or is this 50 feet away? And I think that would be a little difficult to monitor. So I would be in favor of banning it from all public
You're talking
parks.
smoking only, Maggie?
I'm talking cannabis,
Cannabis.
All consumption.
yes. I understand that we might get some unhappy folks that want to smoke tobacco or cigars on the golf course. I heard that comment made in our previous council meeting. While I'm not really in favor of it, I understand, you know, it has been a part of the culture. But I, again, feel strongly about not having cannabis in the public.
So I did want to make, just to make sure you all understand, the way tobacco fits into this is this ordinance would remove the smoking of tobacco in parks. So smoking of tobacco in parks, not in streets. It does basically call out that it does not prohibit it on public rights of way, but that it is prohibited in public places except for the public rights of way and the golf course. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I guess I didn't read it that way,
That would be,
Josh.
Section 3. So
Yes,
A basically says it's expressly prohibited in all public places except, and then Part 1 says it's not prohibited on streets. And that it's.
oh,
Part
okay,
2
of
says
any
not
substance.
prohibited.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You have any substance including, gotcha. Okay, yeah, so it's all inclusive.
Now give that to me again, section 3?
So Section 3 of the ordinance.
Of which section?
This,
13201 or 2?
Yep, so ordinance 339.
you know,
Or 309?
Ordinance number 339. section 3,
So,
Part A,
yeah,
does
it's,
say
yeah,
smoking and vaporizing is expressly prohibited in all public places except, and then it says, part 1 of that is except public streets.
Here's section 3, I'm not seeing that.
132.03.
Oh, it's not section 3 then?
No.
Yeah.
no,
Okay,
it isn't.
so what is 13203?
Yes.
132.03. I guess
Okay.
I was reading the 03 as section
So that's
3.
section 2,
Yeah, wow.
13203A.
Yep, yep.
Oh, okay, yep.
Okay.
So basically by putting that language in there, it was the intent of parks.
Chief Applin, what is your opinion of having to patrol for something like this when you see someone, let's say, on a sidewalk smoking, and it's vape perhaps, and are you gonna ask the person, what are you smoking? And, I mean,
Yeah,
how do you differentiate?
it does become difficult, especially with the different vaping and electronic devices that are out there. If someone was to call in and make that report, we would obviously respond and visually see what's going on, right? If the person was no longer using when we got there, would we have the authority then to approach that person? We don't know that answer yet because there's no case law, right?
Right.
So we don't know what that's gonna look like. With the electronic devices, as you all are aware, they smell differently. There's different flavors, different juices, different things that people smoke. So differentiating between the odor of marijuana and the odor of maybe a flavored tobacco electronic device becomes very difficult. And we just don't know what that looks like right now. So the no use helps us in that aspect to have some consistency throughout the city and say it's just not allowed no matter what you're using.
And when, that last statement that you made, that would be on public sidewalks,
Right.
so no smoking on public sidewalks?
Well, yes, that's where it becomes difficult for us.
Sure.
In whatever direction you want to go with that, but from our standpoint, from the enforcement side, it becomes very difficult, like I mentioned before, to differentiate between is that marijuana smoke or is that tobacco smoke? Again, with the different devices, it just makes it very difficult because we've had numerous reports of, and you've probably seen it, people driving down the road and a big cloud of smoke, right? You don't know, people thought that when these vapes first came out that people were smoking marijuana when it was actually a vape. We've had those reports and numerous other agencies have as well. So that's part of the struggle that we have and part of the challenges that we face in dealing with this without giving any clear direction from the state as to what's legal and what isn't, so.
So I will say in terms of smoking anything anywhere, I know speaking to our attorney, I did not contact every city, but he thought that if we banned tobacco smoking on public sidewalks, we might be trailblazing in the state of Minnesota, kind of to use his words. I don't know how many, if there are any cities that ban the smoking of tobacco on sidewalks. So just to give you guys that information.
I don't wanna be a trailblazer. I think in this instance, it's gonna be just like the indoor smoking, what we dealt with years ago in the early 2000s, when, the state, and then the state finally made a doggone state law that took care of the problem, smoking inside restaurants, bars, so on and so forth. And this is kind of the same thing. We're going with this, and probably in the next 5 years, there'll be a state law that'll make this ordinance
Nullified.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to now is they've given the cities and jurisdictions kind of free rein here to create their own rules because there hasn't been anything from the state. So again, we're gonna have to be open to some change and know that this is probably gonna change and evolve through time here with some more legislation and as this gets through and case law and things that continue to transpire with this. But right now, I think we need to make the best decision for our community and our kids and what we think is best.
Any other questions?
Yeah, have we seen anybody, or has there been any complaints about anybody smoking in public?
That's a good question. That's,
It's been on for 3 weeks
Yeah.
and everybody's had a chance to, do it. Are they even doing it?
It's not legal yet, is it? I
well,
mean,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
it
legal on the
is.
first.
Yes.
It is, I think part of that, part of that conversation is where are they obtaining it, right? Because there's very limited places where you can buy it and possess it and make that transaction legally. So I don't think that we've seen that yet. As dispensaries start to open and it becomes more available, I think that that continues to rise. As of right now, we have not had any complaints. I did not do any research, other cities, or I don't think that the availability is there yet. But I think in time, as things start to evolve here and cities have ordinances and things that rules to follow, I think we'll start seeing more and more of it as time goes on.
And on a county level, I mean, when we do this, on a county level, how do you guys handle that, as like the League of Minnesota Cities, if they were to come out with something, the county be affected by it, or would we have to go
Well,
just municipalities because?
no, it's all, cause I believe Leesore County right now is taking a real hard-nosed approach to the whole thing.
Well, I mean, so,
Um,
yeah, so at a roundtable that Ken and I attended,
Yeah.
kind of what we heard out of there is that the county is taking a real hard-nosed approach. The cities seem to be more open to allowing the various uses such as the retail, manufacturing, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's kind
In
of
terms of the public use, then LeSueur County, there seemed to be a split. About half of the cities were very much, at least when we talked to them, half the cities seemed to be kind of against the public use, and half the cities seemed to kind of be like, yeah, if people want to do it, go ahead. So, LeSueur County and Scott County, just talking to some of the administrators today, are very much the same way. About half the cities are taking a very proactive approach and putting an ordinance into place. And then there's even a few cities that are taking more of a hands-off, let's just wait and see what happens, and we will potentially do something later approach.
I'll vote for that.
Yeah. You know, what's gonna be funny is if the legislature turns prior to that Office of Cannabis opening up and, you know, cause it could happen. Cause when's elections? Next year?
Yep.
And the cannabis office isn't gonna open till that following,
They're
or
expecting quarter one of that following year.
of that following year, and I mean, this could all be, but yeah, we gotta do something now, obviously, but it could all be.
Yeah, it could all be for naught, right? Questioning about the hemp edibles, and why that would be included. Chief Applin, I think in our previous, council meeting, there was some discussion about, you know, if someone's eating a piece of candy or a hemp edible. And again, that becomes an enforcement issue, I would imagine. So I don't know that, in my opinion, it would be necessary to ban an edible, because that doesn't have any secondhand effect, that I'm aware of. And then hemp-derived consumer products, I'm not sure what that means. What is, but I didn't take a look at the statute, so it's my fault for not taking a look at the definition. So hemp-derived consumer products, are we talking about?
Part of our conversation around the edibles was that we don't allow people to walk down the street necessarily and become intoxicated, right? Like they can't carry one of these down the street and just drink and become intoxicated. So that was a concern that, especially with the labeling and the potency of these edibles that are out there right now, that they're very strong. And what we're finding is there's been a lot of overdoses because of the amount of THC that are in these, because the regulations just aren't there yet, and what's getting shipped out necessarily isn't being enforced. There's also been some studies about children thinking that these are candies or, you know, pieces of candy. And in Colorado particularly, there was a study that their overdoses in children with the edibles had risen significantly because it looks like a gummy bear, right? So making those things less accessible in public places was kind of our conversation. What you choose to do in your own home is of your own prerogative. But what we can control in public spaces is limiting that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was our conversation with city staff on that.
Cool.
Okay, thank you for that.
My comment is probably in conjunction, or correlates to Maggie's comment about the golf course. I think it's inconsistent that we would have that golf course allow it, smoking of cannabis. That just strikes me as odd when we're eliminating from other parks. And certainly children are at the golf course, so to me that's inconsistent with what we're trying to achieve there. So I would think that we can just strike that from the definition of the public place definition. And if you keep it in the tobacco section, that probably would work out. But that would be my
Agreed.
concern too about there.
Okay, any other questions?
No, it scares me to think that, the apartment building, anybody that's a resident in an apartment building, we're gonna have problems with that one.
Well, the ordinance isn't, that's private property. It's not precluding them from, it's the landlords.
Wow. Not really, because in all reality, they go out in the alley and smoke it. And they're gonna anyway. You know, this is impossible to enforce.
And
You
then-
literally have to tell everybody you can't smoke. And then in the winter, you can't even breathe because
Oh,
you're
it
gonna
isn't
look like
that,
you're
it's,
smoking.
it's the hemp that I would hope that the apartment buildings would tell them not to smoke in. I don't know if I'd wanna live in an apartment building. When I was with the county, we'd walk into those apartment buildings and you could just smell it in there. And it was like, how could anybody live in this?
Yeah, well, how can you can't find who it is. I mean.
No, you can't, but it sure, so,
But your example, you can still smoke tobacco in that scenario, go out to the
Yeah.
alley.
Some of them don't even allow it on the property. You go to Phillips Square, anybody who lives in Phillips Square,
yeah.
you go out on the sidewalk or out in the alley to smoke. And that's the way it would be with weed too. And if you take and tell them that they cannot smoke, on sidewalks and in the alleys, you're telling them they can't smoke.
Well,
We're not telling them that.
we're not telling them that. We're telling them that we can't smoke. We're telling them that they can't smoke marijuana in the alley and on the sidewalks.
They're gonna do it anyway.
Well, then they take the chances of going to jail. That's if.
But like
just
you just
any
said, I
other
mean, it's
law.
impossible to try to figure out. I mean, there's not a test where we can give somebody a test and see how long ago you smoked weed.
Correct, but if I'm a cop driving by that person smoking and I smell marijuana,
And if they ain't smart enough to get rid of it, then that's goofy.
well, that's how the game's played, Rick.
I know it, but it's just, why even create a situation where people are gonna be breaking the law for something that they've been doing since they came home from Vietnam?
Well, I guess we believe it's in the best interest of the city, and
Yeah.
that's why we'd be doing it.
Yeah, and just to clarify this is a petty misdemeanor offense, so someone's.
They wouldn't be going to jail, but.
Somebody wouldn't be necessarily going to jail, right? To your point, Rick, a lot of things are illegal, right? Driving under the influence is illegal. People still choose to do that, right? So there are a lot of things out there that are illegal. We're just trying to create some direction and some enforcement here for things that we feel is best for the city. And we can't control what individual apartment buildings do or don't do. This is for the city and things
That we can.
that we can control.
And imagine, like a lot of the approaches law enforcement is taking, it's really an educational project more than anything else.
It is, and I think this is gonna be a learning process for everyone, because it's, with the limited guidance that we've been given thus far, like I alluded to earlier, this is gonna evolve over time. This is far from, set in stone, I think, and if I was to guess, so.
And I gotta just say, I would recommend tabling this issue until we know more about what's gonna happen.
I don't think we're gonna know soon enough.
No.
If anything, so I don't think anything's gonna be done for well over a year or more. Until maybe some trends are seen, but
So what if we pass something and then we turn around and, nobody's smoking out there anyway? I mean, they're not gonna listen to us. They're not even gonna hear or know we did it. You know, your average Blow Joe goes to work every day. He's not gonna sit and read the paper, so they won't even know we, let it pass. And Doziki's gonna be happening. Let's just see how many people are actually doing it. I haven't seen nobody. I've gone around, even when the, people were outside the bars, I went out and I drove around. Just to see if anybody was smoking weed, and nobody was. I mean, so I don't, and it's been on for 3 weeks.
So what's our next option here? We take this as a first
So
reading?
that would depend. You have the option of approving it on first reading. It does have to go through 2 readings. So your first option is to approve on first reading by motion. It could die due to lack of a motion. If there's any changes you want to make, but want to continue moving it forward, you just want to include those in your motion, so that way staff knows exactly what you are looking to add or remove.
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve ordinance number 339, striking number 1 about the golf course. Take that language out.
So 13201, under the definition of public place,
Yep,
number 1.
I think that was it, right?
Actually, 13202, subsection B, 50 feet of any city employee in the new.
Oh, yeah, okay,
golf
there,
course.
yes,
Yeah.
that one too.
So I guess, would you like us to remove any mention of the golf
Golf
course?
course.
Yeah, any mention of the golf course.
Okay,
that'd be
that, yeah,
nice.
that might be an easier amendment, instead of,
Okay.
we can remove any mention of the golf course.
Well, except that you're leaving into 13203, number 2.
Except for 13203, number 2.
Yeah, and then,
Want to allow smoking on the golf course.
Tobacco.
and smoking and vaporizing tobacco is not, yeah, we gotta eliminate that because we said it was okay.
No,
On the
so,
golf
yeah,
course.
so you'd keep it in there.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm just referring,
Yep.
Josh said take golf course out of
Yes.
it, but you have to leave it in.
Yes.
That's
You have to
You're
leave
right.
it in that
Yep.
part. Okay, we got that.
Okay, so there, I made the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Does staff feel that that is achieving what we have been discussing as far as eliminating it on the golf course?
Yeah, I mean, I think that takes care of that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next item, we're down to general business. Schedule budget meeting.
Yes, so we are running a little bit late off most years. Normally, we've had 1 meeting by this point. I will say the finance office is crunching right now, trying to get the new software up and running, but, no, we still have plenty of time. I did include the calendar for the end of August, since we still have about a week and a half in August into September. As a reminder, we do need to have a preliminary levy set by the end of September. I think realistically for staff, if we could, we would be ready to go by Monday, the 28th, if council wants to have a budget discussions, starting then or anytime thereafter.
What time would you be thinking on Monday, the 28th?
We all work here, so that is up to you.
I know,
You're talking about next week?
yeah.
That is about the earliest we could get it going, is Monday next week.
I won't be available that
Okay.
day.
When will you be available?
29.
Oh. I thought you said this week.
I assumed you meant the entire week.
That's
I'm
what I.
sorry, of that week, the 20th.
Yeah, I'm available the 29th.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
Rick, are you available on the
Yeah,
20th?
that's fine.
I would have a brief conflict from 5:45 to 6, as my 4-year-old is meeting his preschool teacher. So I either have to take him or handle 3 other children. But other than those 15 minutes, I'm available that evening.
But Robin will be with us, right? So
Robin will be, and any other staff member that are able to make it.
Yeah,
So, I
so-
mean, I would probably just duck out and duck back in.
It'd be fine. Because it's her show anyway, kinda.
This isn't gonna go good for my review
What,
tonight.
what time are we talking about?
We have
5
it
o'clock?
5 o'clock.
It's up to you guys whenever you
It'd
wanna
be
do it.
great.
I know that,
The only one maybe.
I was gonna say, I mean, I know, yeah, I guess I don't know what your work schedule looks like, Maggie, and I know that, Sean many times spends most of his days up in the cities, so I
Yeah.
don't know what his would look like either, but,
Yeah, no, I'm usually done at 4, so
Okay.
I can easily make it at 5.
Matt and I do have a fundraiser that
Oh.
afternoon that we will be attending, so.
Okay, well, that's 29th is out then.
What about Thursday, the 31st?
You're not available in the evening then?
I can't.
It would,
Back until like 6:30.
yeah, 6.
and, yeah, I mean, it is something too, where if you really wanna go on the 29th, cause that works for people, I mean,
You
we
know,
can kinda cover for each other too.
yeah, the 31st doesn't either
Okay.
for me.
Yeah, well, if we can do the 29th, then we don't have to necessarily address the budget for the police department, so we could,
Yeah,
Get some
I was
other-
gonna say, when we can work through those, and if we have questions or specific for them too, like, we can just end with those specific questions.
Yeah, we could get our questions together, cause, yeah, cause I would just assume that the first budget meeting would be presentation again.
I mean, it's mostly presentation of this is what we have, do you guys have questions, this is why, we ended up landing where we landed.
Mm-hmm.
and Josh, do you think we'll have enough time to get that packet meeting so we are able to review it?
Yes, we can, well, I will do my best to get it out as
Okay.
quickly as possible this week. But like I said, I know they've been in training all month and they continue to be in training, so Robin, that whole office is really having to work around all those trainings. But
Yeah,
I'll do my best to get you as much information as you can as early as possible, and then maybe also to share additional information come meeting.
sure. Yeah, I don't wanna put too much pressure on Robin and the rest of the, staff, so that was just the reason for my question, is not to say you have to get it to us, but
Yep.
so at least we can get a set of eyes on it. And
Yeah.
develop some questions.
Okay,
so
we'll
do
shoot for the
29th
29th.
at 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
Got that, Patrick?
Okay. All right, the next items is miscellaneous, and I'll go around the horn. Rick, do you have anything?
Yeah, Josh, how come my, or none of my committees are on this? Upcoming meeting thing again,
Which meetings would that be?
all of them,
Yeah, but which ones do you sit on?
3, 4, right now I only have, community center, aquatic center, Cedar Lake, and
So I will look at, yeah, I'll look at
The
those.
aquatic,
Are
we
all
don't
of
have
those-
one this month,
Are
we
all
have
of
one
those
next
open?
month.
Are all of those open to the public?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, cause I know, okay,
The aquatic is next month, it's September 25th.
yep.
I thought I went to Cedar Lake
You could have.
in there every other month, so it's like, I went to
I-
Cedar Lake this month, next month should be,
I'll look it up.
Thank you.
And get you all that stuff. Yep.
please do. And the 29th.
Yep. Cause I accidentally missed the last aquatic meeting, I don't know if.
Oh, we all know.
Oh, it's nothing exciting.
No, I know, but I just missed it.
You said aquatic center, Cedar Lake, hockey, and,
Just go with them 3, if you can
Yep.
figure that one out. Me and Tim haven't even tackled one of them out there.
Okay, anything else, Rick?
Nope.
Okay, Bruce?
Just a question for Ken probably. I was looking at that tree study with the, that Bolton Mink did. And I couldn't make out what the green circles on is that identifying, there's not a legend that describes what the green circle means. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Does that mean that they are affected or they're just trees?
So they, are revising that that was actually a draft that we put on the website, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're revising that report. A lot of people had trouble discerning what was what on that, so they're correcting that. We're actually gonna get, a digital data set that we can kind of play with on that too. So we can customize, make any map once we get that. I actually left a message for Bolton Bank today to talk through that, because we're actually working on applications for the DNR relief grant, and then the, forget the other one, community bond, forget what it was called, Matt. I don't know, there's two of them where there's, no match, requirements, so we're actually gonna be leveraging that study in those applications, but yeah, we need to basically parse out where are the ash trees and which ones are infected and not, and kind of get down to that level, but, we don't have that updated report yet that we can.
Does the green circle really attach any meaning to it, or they're,
I don't know.
okay?
So in general, if you're looking, I don't know if you're referring to just one of the general maps in there, those are generally just tree locations.
Yeah, but I
But-
noticed there's not green circles on all the trees, so it just kind of.
They only did trees that were a certain diameter and larger,
Okay,
and I forget what that exact number, I think it was larger than 6
yeah,
inches.
I guess I was searching
all
for
trees or
like
just ash
there's,
trees?
All trees.
Okay.
Yep.
I was searching for, well, this one is affected, so it's a purple circle. or this
They
is-
didn't do that
they
for
didn't
that
do any of
report. The intent was, we want probably just a ash tree map with which ones are infected that we can throw in that report, just for a quick look. And then
Okay.
we can do whatever we need to on a level of staff to really break down by park or by golf course or whatever it might be.
I think that'd be very valuable. Valuable. I appreciate that you put that on the website. I think it's good information for people to look at. But what you're talking about would be even more valuable.
Yes.
So people that are concerned, if they live by that particular park, can get an understanding of what's what there.
Yeah, and I think with the right-of-way trees that are gonna be added to that too, I think that will add another layer of, ooh, that's really close to my house, or, you know, whatever it might be. But yeah, there's a lot of information we can, you know, kind of pull out of that electronic data set that we just can't have every map made for every scenario, so.
Yeah.
But they're wrapping it up, should be, I'm thinking by the end of the week, but I'm just waiting for their confirmation on that.
So you're wrapping up with these changes or with the rest of the study?
The rest of the study, actually, they collected all the data, they just needed to get that in a format and kind of ship it over, and then, part of it was adding it to our online portal where we have all the, you know, sanitary sewer, electric, and water data on there too, so.
Okay.
Then we can kind of do what we need to run reports and make maps and all that on there.
And this is a different trivial question, but I was walking on Dwayne's new sidewalk by his house.
No, that's good.
I was walking towards the end, going west to east, and I was gonna cross over, and I noticed there's a curb cut out on East
Yep.
Gate. But there's grass planted in the boulevard, so I thought, what's the curb cut for?
For the sidewalk. It's gonna, when they redo that water main this fall, I think they're gonna replace, when they put that new section, cause
On the east side of,
on the east side, that's gravel right now, because the city,
where's
when it.
grass planted there?
Yeah, so all we did is we made a curb cut there, cause all that sidewalk's getting ripped out, so if we just added the flare ends to attach that sidewalk, they were gonna get ripped out here in a month too. So
Okay.
all we did is the ADA compliant curb cut, and yes, they did plant seed there, but it's all getting dug out in about a month.
Okay, it's just an argument with my wife I was trying to settle.
Well,
Did you win?
So, well,
it-
is there gonna be a crosswalk? I guess that might answer the question.
There will be a crossing there, yes.
A crosswalk?
That has not been decided if we're gonna put, crosswalk,
Apron.
signs and stuff like that.
Oh, I can't tell her then.
I say, so did you win?
Well, I can't, we don't know if there's a crosswalk.
We don't put, every crosswalk does not have a sign
I'll
indicating
just
it.
have,
Okay.
just have your wife call me, I'll tell her that you were right.
Okay, okay, so the planting of grass is just a deflection of.
Yeah, basically, as they're going
magician's
by, they
thing.
just planted grass.
Yeah, I think they just backfilled their concrete, the contractor, and,
Okay, thank you.
god dang,
Is that you?
yes. How long has that been beeping?
About 30 minutes now.
It's not that loud because I think the battery's dead.
So piggybacking on his question, what do we do with people that have trees on their private property? And they're dying and they're affected by this ash borer? How, we send them a letter? What are we
Yeah,
gonna?
so I can address that in our, tree ordinance that we
Yeah.
updated due to the grant that we had from the DNR from last year. We did update our tree code, that it is a nuisance. We can send them a citation letter, get it taken down, or we'll take it down for you.
Okay.
One of the things for the grant that we just talked about this morning is to see if we can have some kind of a program for private tree removal, whether it be income-based, you know, for people that can't afford to have their tree taken down if they have one that, you know, would be a public hazard if it's gonna fall over on a
Yep,
house or
yep.
a sidewalk or whatever. We don't have that answer from the DNR if we can do that yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping we can. But yeah, by and large, the program for how we believe the criteria is read is that it's for public, and I'm not sure we can do that, but we're seeing what we can do. We obviously did the tree giveaway this spring. We probably will do that again for next year, but that doesn't take care of removing.
Well,
dead
yeah,
ones.
when there's trees up there with limbs
To
falling
be
and
determined,
stuff, and-
maybe I'll put that in the weekly update if I find out if we can
Okay.
set that up that way. I guess generally, would there be interest in it if we could get some, you know, free grant dollars for, I don't know if it'd be low income or, you know, just assistance in removal of ash trees on private property. If we can do that through the grant program, would that be an interest of the council? to do
Well, I
that?
think if we could, you know, help people, because, I mean,
It's not
there-
cheap.
It's not cheap, and just all of a sudden, if you gotta remove it, you know, even if you'd have to pay it back, it would be nice just to be able to pay the bill right away and then,
Yeah, I don't know.
or something, you know, I just.
Does the city use a particular tree service?
Nope, we use 3 or 4 local.
Okay, so I'm wondering if maybe those tree services, you know, if they were able to offer a little bit of a break because of the diseased trees.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's all I had.
I'd support any kind of grant or any kind
Yeah.
of help with that. Because there will be people that will let it go and it'll become a safety issue because of the monetary cost. of it.
Correct. Yeah.
And it won't be any cheaper if we have to hire a company to do it for them,
Correct,
so.
yeah, so.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll let you know what
I
we
was
find
just
out.
curious that he just broke that loose and was like, oh, what do we do with private? Because,
I think the DNR has called it historic funding for trees, and they're not kidding. It's no match and quite a lot of money out there in between that 2 different pots of money, but we'll see what we can get out of there.
okay,
That would be great.
Maggie,
I don't have anything this evening.
Matt?
Yeah, just to kind of, how we talked a little bit earlier about Main Street that's going on. I've received a few phone calls this afternoon just because they actually have really started working on Main Street. It looks worse than it is, I will say, because right now their plans are only to put 2 vaults, one by the mill and one over by Salon Paz. So it's really, they're not going to be disturbing as much. It's all under directional boring. Right now, right in front of, what is it called? Not Bargain Betty's. Consignment?
the
Bargain
Bargain
Lodge?
Lodge.
Okay.
Bargain Lodge? Yep.
They vacked out that entire landscape bed. I met with them this afternoon about 5 o'clock, and the plans are, that's where they're gonna start doing their shooting to the east and then shooting to the west with the directional drilling.
Okay,
By the end of the week, they tell me they're gonna have that all backfilled and all the landscaping plants back in. So there's a lot of action going on Main Street. Again, the city wasn't excited about this. I met with them about a month ago. I gave them a reroute to go through a city street that got turned down. MnDOT approved their right-of-way permit, so this is a MnDOT road. We just have to kind of
so
work with
how
them.
do we guarantee or, you know, because I know there's boo-boos. How do we make sure that they didn't go through one of our lines or something? I mean, do we gotta check that stuff afterwards and?
Yeah, I mean, all the locates that have gone through.
Yeah,
we
I
give
know,
them.
but
Yeah, is it anything 100%?
No.
But they are going very deep in some areas to avoid any chances of hitting anything.
okay,
So like, there's some areas that they're 10 to 12 feet deep. Again, they also have all the water and sewer inspections, so they know exactly how deep the services are. So,
oh, they've done all that stuff, or they know, they have the mapping, you mean?
yep, turn that all over to them just to make it easier for them. And, you know, really it's just water and sewer services and street lights on the south side. We don't have gas on Main Street. That's all in the alleys.
Okay,
Electric besides street lights is in the alleys. So there's not as much on Main Street as you would think for utilities besides, you know, your normal water, storm. Bevcom's not even on Main Street. So,
anymore,
yep.
okay.
And who's doing this?
what I'm being told, and I think Ken's heard the same thing, it's a fiber for Facebook. And MinDOT gave him the permit for it.
Okay.
So it's just for one company?
From what I'm being told, yes.
Being told.
A lot of money.
Oh, yeah, there's some biased donkey activity going on in St. Paul.
But didn't, was it Facebook or Microsoft, didn't they have a program for the state of Minnesota to try to improve, fiber optic throughout the state, or what, one of those, or,
Google?
or maybe we didn't qualify for it?
Well, so I know the state did, because at a previous job, we applied and we received like $5 million in funding. But they were very focused on outstate Minnesota, communities that either did not have broadband or did not have consistent broadband across the entire city. And so if a city for some reason is served by a third party such as Xfinity or Bevcom, they would have been very, very low on the priority list compared to cities who may only have half their city served or something like that.
Interesting.
So about 4 to 5 weeks, they tell me. Anything by Dozinki weekend, if they're not done, you will not even know that they were here, they claim. And they have been really good to work with, I will tell you that.
They look
They've been
like they know what
awesome
they're
to
doing.
work with. So it's only been since Friday, but I mean, they've been very proactive with calling me for the last month, getting information. So I feel good about what they have told me, and they have, their actions have been speaking louder than words so far, so that's good.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing okay. Yep. That's it, man?
That's all I got.
Okay, Chief?
Thank you for your, I guess, your diligence and patience with this cannabis ordinance and legislation as we work through it. Again, it's probably gonna change, but, we'll stay on top of it as best we can and bring you updates as needed. We are in full swing planning mode for Dozinki, so, a couple of, just to make you aware, Brooke and I and Matt have been planning, and we're changing the parade route just a little bit, not the route itself, but the direction that it goes. So we're gonna go the opposite direction down Main Street this year. Part of that conversation was because of the staging area down on 7th and 10th got to be really congested. Some concerns about safety and vehicles, and there is a lot more room on the west side, in the lot back there and going up to Second and Third and Second Avenue. So we've worked that route out, and it works. It'll work. I think the space and the safety aspect will be much safer for the community and the whole route. Addition to that, tomorrow night we are having a meeting with all the parade units to reiterate some safety concerns that we've had over the past few years, primarily with the throwing of candy from parade floats. It just, what happens is the road narrows because kids come out to get the candy. We just want to make sure that nothing does happen. Safety is our number one priority, so the more we can get that word out to these parade float drivers, the better we feel or be prepared for that.
So no candy?
You just can't, they have to be walkers, so they have to be walkers, and they can go out and hand it to.
And I think over
Curb
the
to
years,
curb.
it's just laxed up where they started cheating and throwing from
And
the
that has
cans.
that's been the standard for
Yeah.
years.
Yep.
However, I just don't think that it's being followed, so
Yep.
for us to have everyone here and everyone hear the same message, the argument can't be that we didn't know.
Yep. Oh, I got you.
And you have to attend the meeting tomorrow to be in the parade.
Correct.
So do it, I don't,
A representative from your,
yeah, you'll be there.
No, you have to be there.
No, I'm not. Okay.
That's all
anything
that I
else?
have.
Okay. Ken?
Nothing.
Josh?
I do not have anything.
Okay. Well, we have a special meeting after this one, so, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? And Bruce seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right. So we have that special meeting afterwards.
I was gonna stay for that one. I didn't get an invite.
It's been good.